This is the Black Information Network Daily Podcast, and I am your host, Ramses Ja. And sometimes the amount of stories that make their way to us means that we simply can't cover everything that comes our way. But from time to time, a story just stays with me, and I feel compelled to share it with you and give you my thoughts. And now, one more thing. All right, so for this installment of One More Thing, we are going to share something with you that you may have heard about, maybe not. But, we felt we should alert you to some things, some dots we've connected on the back end that are noteworthy. So welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Ramses Ja.
He is Ramses Ja. They call me Q Ward.
And this comes from ABC News. The Treasury Department has given Elon Musk and representatives of his Department of Government Efficiency, or Doge, access to the vast federal payment system responsible for handling trillions of dollars in government expenditures. Multiple sources familiar with the matter told ABC News. The payment system, which is essentially a checkbook for the entire federal government, is a closely held operation run by career officials with a limited number of people authorized to access the information given. It contains sensitive information about hundreds of millions of Americans. The demand for access to the payment system reportedly caused such a rift inside the Treasury Department that the career official who previously oversaw it, David Lebrick, was placed on administrative leave last week after he resisted granting Musk and his government efficiency team access to the database. On Friday, Lebrick told colleagues at the department he would be retiring, sources told ABC News. If Musk or his team were to attempt to block these payments, it would likely face legal challenges given the money is approved by Congress. Sources said that if Musk or his representatives were to request that changes be made to the system, such requests would be subject to an internal review process by the Treasury Department officials. In a letter to Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, Senator Ron Wyden, the ranking Democrat on the Senate Finance Committee, said that any, quote, politically motivated meddling, end quote, in the payment systems risk severe damage to our country and the economy. Spokespeople for Doge, the White House, and Treasury didn't respond to a request for comment. So, again, some folks may know this and be aware of it. Some people might not, but the keys are continuing to fall into the hands of the people who were responsible for many of the more flagrant, vile, upsetting headlines that we have been forced to consume over the past few weeks. And now Doge, even though it's not really a real thing, it's a pseudo government department. Now they have, for all intents and purposes, the keys to the United States' checkbook. And we got to talk about that.
It's all happening. Every single thing that we feared, all the worst case scenarios of someone like our president becoming president and someone being able to out in the open not just pay for but manipulate the election and buy themselves a president. When you do that, you get undeterred access to everything that comes with running a country, I guess. Watching all of this play out is a little scary. And I think most of us are kind of wondering, where is the resistance? Like, where is the other side? Where are the people that are supposed to stop something like this from happening? And I think this is what you and I and people like us were trying to get people to ask before it happened.
Yeah.
While we were watching these people snake themselves into every sector of government, every branch, every lever. Because we knew once they succeeded, it would be too late to try to change anything. It'd be too late to try to get in their way. Every branch of government, every lever, every resource, access to everything. I think a lot of people thought we were being hyperbolic. I think a lot of people thought that we were just crying the sky was falling for the sake of it. And they never bothered to look up to see that we were right. It is every day there's something in the news, and every time I get a notification from work or from just the news in general, I'm hesitant to click it because what we might read and what we might have to come in here and cover. So it's I'm in a perpetual state of like stress and angst now. So I'm not emoting the way that I normally would, because I've been in this state since about 6 p.m. our time, election day. Mm-hmm. I've spent most of my emotions on how this directly affects me and my family and my children and those that we love, those that look like us, but those that don't. Those who don't love or pray or look or think the same way that we do, I'm watching how this impacts them too. But again, I always knew that it would impact everyone negatively. Yeah. Because even if you are not a marginalized person, you know someone, right? Even if you're a white man, you know a woman. Right? I don't even have to make it more specific than that. Even if you are a white woman, you know a woman that's not white. And I can go on and on. Even if you're a black person, you know someone that's also black, which is enough. But then you look at the immigrants who are now in the crosshairs, and you know someone from that world and from that background. So it's just everyone's a target except for the straight white man. Yeah. Unless you're rich, then you can be a gay white man who organizes and raises money for someone that openly doesn't like gay people. Right? It's like the lowest common denominator. They rip away all of their minority statuses to arrive back at white. No solidarity with gay people. Right? One of the guys that helped raise money to make J.D. Vance the guy for the vice presidency was a very, very wealthy gay man. You know, who injected tens of millions of dollars, maybe hundreds of millions of dollars into a party that's openly attacking the LGBTQ community. But at the end of the day, he got to resort back down to his least common denominator. He was white.
Still white, yeah.
And, you know, you get to turn your minority off when it's just part of who you are. Yeah. And it's an unfortunate thing to see what's going on. You know, shout out to our guy, Bryce Breezy. Midterms in 2 years. Maybe we can flip some seats. But will it be too late by then? Will they have already consumed enough power and kind of made everybody bend the knee? I feel like I see less and less people in government speaking now. I see a lot of our colleagues that are very, very loud, you know, as they were during the election cycle and have been since. But I don't see a lot of people in DC that seem to be as upset as we are and standing up to fight against what we see going on. And maybe they're doing all of this quietly on purpose. But we would love to hear something.
Yeah, to know that there's some momentum. There's that the spirit of what we
would love to not feel so hopeless. Yeah. So yeah, man, it's scary, but so is everything else. It's like once upon a time, something like this would have been like, oh my God, but what are we on day what of his presidency? There's been so many oh my gods that I can't even emote anymore.
Well, let's go with that, because I think that there's something to be said about this being a familiar feeling for those of us who endured his first presidency as like conscious adults in the real world with a degree of political engagement, because almost every day of his first presidency, we wake up to some sort of, oh my God, right? Now, this is very different because the level of the oh my God and the ripple effect of the oh my God is much further reaching. Now, Elon Musk, who just did a Nazi salute the other day on a stage twice, has all of our social security numbers and can decide whether or not to pay federal funding that has been approved by Congress to federal programs.
Important to point out that he's not an elected official.
Yeah, he's the person that spent almost $300 million to get Donald Trump elected. And even before that happened, he started to move to the far right and really position himself as let me say it this way. He started to oppose many of the things that black people have collectively, more or less, decided would make our futures more equitable in this country. Now, to be fair, not all black people agree on what that looks like.
Yeah.
But the vast majority of us have decided what we want our future to look like. And, you know, in a country where we value majority vote, democracy, democratic procedures, so forth and so on, I think that when a person, certainly a black person, but when a person like Elon Musk stands opposed to that, he's not an elected official, then he, for all intents and purposes, has made himself the antagonist in our story, in black people's story in this country. He's now the bad guy. He's now the villain, and his buddy Trump has long been the villain. And so where we are is this person who's he said it on his Twitter, DEI must DIE, right? He's shared and originated several tweets on his platform or whatever that suggest that there are like biological differences that cause races to perform at different levels. I don't want to be too specific here because I don't know exactly what he posted, but I do remember reading these things. We got off of Twitter once he took over. Shout out to fan base because it's black owned. You know what I'm saying? And anybody that's black that's still on Twitter, learn about fan base, because, you know, ain't no sense in being on the Nazi platform, you know.
Word.
In any event, you know, this is the sort of thing that we need to keep an eye on. We're here now. This is the result of all of the people that didn't vote, because that's really what shaped this past election. It wasn't the majority of other people, white people in the Midwest. It wasn't that necessarily. They were going to vote how they were going to vote, no matter what. But
there was an unusually high Hispanic turnout for the other side. That
sure, and we can point at a few things. Yeah, we can point at a few things, to be fair. But the number of people that voted for Donald Trump this time was less than the number of people that voted for him last time. Again, when he was running against Joe Biden, not Hillary Clinton. So he's had less and less voter turnout every time he's run, Donald Trump. Okay. The reason that the Democrats didn't have a good showing, a competitive showing, is because Democrats didn't get out and vote. That's really what left Donald Trump with not only the presidency, but the popular vote. It's just because the people on the progressive side didn't show up. And as a result of that, now, for all intents and purposes, there's a Nazi who is controlling the purse strings of the United States of America. And for programs that affect black and brown people, again, for a person that has attacked DEI initiatives that and other initiatives that exist to bring about an equitable experience for marginalized people in this country, now he's controlling the money. And, you know, his department, his pseudo department, is under an administration that has in many ways presented itself as hostile to what many black folks, the majority of black people, would consider a progressive agenda that is more equitable for all of us. So my hope is that the fight is taking place in the courts. You know, many people are talking about that. The courts
it's hard to have faith in the courts.
Yeah, well, the courts, to be fair, are
got that on lock too.
Yeah, especially the Supreme Court. But it's not impossible to tie up their momentum in courts, to where we don't have to live under that reality for nearly as long. And then again, in addition to that, it's not impossible that, you know, folks with a more progressive agenda, folks that understand that there's a reason that things are the way that they are, it's not impossible that those folks could actually have some victories, because just because there's an advantage in the courts, the federal courts across the country, for a conservative agenda, doesn't mean that all judges are deeply conservative judges and are biased and are or are corrupt or whatever, right? And so that's where we do have a conversation about what hope do we have. I think that that's a place where we can still have those conversations. And, you know, litigation, it moves slowly, most of the time it moves pretty slowly. And the truth of the matter is that, yes, you're right. Midterms are coming up in 2 years. It's not unheard of that litigation is tied up for 2 years. And then perhaps we can claw some things back.
Yeah, we shall see.
And then, of course, another 2 years after that, we have another election. And we hope, yes, well said. And if everything goes according to plan for that election cycle, maybe we can start to rebuild everything that was burned to the ground. And so, I think that, for this installment of One More Thing, it just made sense to just let everybody know that this is not just, okay, what did Trump do? This is not just, okay, well, Trump's in the White House. We're going to see, but more or less everything on the ground is the same. No, this affects everybody. Everybody. You who are listening who didn't vote, or your cousin didn't vote, or your kid didn't vote, or your dad didn't vote. It affects all those people that didn't vote too. And now, to Q's point, we have a non-elected official in a made-up government department deciding whether or not to send out congressionally approved funds to federal programs across this country for the benefit of all those people that didn't work. Or I guess I should say now, to the detriment of all those people who didn't vote. So, some more food for thought to think about here. And that's about all I got. You're free to disagree with me, or to add some additional color. You can do so using the red microphone talkback feature on the iHeartRadio app. Of course, you can hit me on all social media at Ramses Ja.
I am Q Ward on all social media as well.
And until we hear from you,
peace.
This has been a production of the Black Information Network. Today's show is produced by Chris Thompson. Have some thoughts you'd like to share? Use the red microphone talkback feature on the iHeartRadio app. While you're there, be sure to hit subscribe and download all of our episodes. I am your host, Ramses Ja, on all social media. Join us tomorrow as we share our news with our voice from our perspective, right here on the Black Information Network Daily Podcast.